Hi there, it's Martin here with a quick video just to share a story that I have come across so many times where property investors have fallen in love with a property that they found and have failed to carry out some fairly basic due diligence early enough so that they can make the correct decisions early enough. Now, the bit of information that these property investors have not got early enough, in my opinion, is some advice from a structural engineer. I have to say, I've met far too many property investors who have seen a property, they found a property they want to buy, they've fallen in love with it, they've worked out how they can convert it into an HMO, how they can add some value, they've spoken to an architect, they're dreaming about what they're going to create. They've employed a solicitor to start purchasing the property. And then a long way down the line, they have found that they've got some problems with the building because there is some potential structural movement in the building. There are some cracks. And I have to say to you, my advice is if you look at a property that has got any signs of structural movement in it, you should speak to a structural engineer as the next port of call. Now, finding buildings with structural movement is actually a good thing from a property investing perspective because a lot of people can't buy properties with structural movement. If it's got serious structural movement, it will be cash buyers only. And that predominantly sees off all of the residential purchasers who need to purchase with a mortgage. So finding something with cracks and structural movement is a good thing, but don't spend any more time looking at that property until you've taken advice from a structural engineer. Some property investors say to me, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to have a valuer's surveyor come round before I buy the property, so they'll tell me all about the structural problems. That's not the case. The average valuer surveyor will not be a structural engineer. What they will flag up is they'll flag up defects with the property, but they will say potential structural faults, recommendation, appoint structural engineer and carry out recommendations thereafter. So you might as well save time and get the structural engineer involved early on. Yes, it's going to cost you money. You're not going to get a lot of structural engineering report for much under £600, £650. And on some bigger and more complex things, it can easily get much higher than that, of course. With that information, you can make the right decision. And if the decision is not to proceed, then at least you've saved loads of your time and potentially not appointed a solicitor and a broker and all the other parties that start to cost you money. Let me tell you a little story. I met a property investor and she told me about 2 houses that she wanted to buy in her town. They were empty houses. She wanted to buy them. She could convert them into 2 HMOs. So they were big. I think they were 4 stories high, these houses, big old-fashioned Victorian houses, wanted to convert them into an HMO. I met her a number of times. She was still buying these houses. I don't know how sure she was, but these were her ideal properties. Don't know how much she'd done about them, but she hadn't bought them. One day, after a good number of months, I spoke to her again. I saw her again, and she said, Martin, these properties are now in the next auction. I need to make a proper decision as to what I'm going to do. And can you come and help me work out the budget price for converting them into HMOs? So I met the lady at the property. We looked at these houses. I carefully opened the front door and I walked around and had a look at the first house, and I carefully closed the front door behind me. And I said to the lady, I'm not even going to go in the other house. And you might have noticed I didn't let the door slam because I was concerned that had I done that, the whole house might have fallen down. the house was covered with cracks. I wasn't entirely sure what was holding it up. Maybe it was the cobwebs or something like that. But the long and short of that story was that those houses could only be demolished. Now, I'm not a structural engineer, but I could see from my experience that there was no way that those properties could be salvaged for a realistic cost. So they had to be demolished. So this particular property investor had wasted an awful lot of time and fallen in love with these properties, when in reality, had she got a structural engineer out earlier on, she'd have probably only paid the same kind of fee as she paid me anyway, but she could have parked them, moved on. In the end, these two properties were demolished. In fact, there was space on the land to build a block of flats, and the last I saw, it was developed out as a block of flats, which was not actually my client's ideal investment anyway. My client wanted HMOs. She didn't want blocks of flats. So had she taken advice way earlier than she did, she could have parked that site, moved on. It wasn't going to be right for her. Go and spend some time looking for the right thing somewhere else. So I really hope this little video has been of use to you. Please do subscribe and leave a comment below. And then I look forward to catching up with you on another video soon.